Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Matt Bills here. Today, I want to talk about whether or not you need to go to school to become a photographer. And as I will always do on this channel, I'm going to speak purely from experience. And my experience is I did not go to any type of film school or art school. I didn't do, AV stuff in high school or college. I didn't study media. I didn't study any of this stuff formally. So, one of the things I really, really love about working in a creative field is that oftentimes everyone's journey is very different in terms of what brought them to this point today. Me, I didn't go to an art school. I didn't study media or television or just any of that stuff that would be relevant to a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now. I went to school for business. I have a bachelor's degree in leadership and a master's degree in organizational performance. And I worked in, I feel like, and I feel like I had an entirely different life before I started doing this as my full time career. I mean, I worked in the corporate world from the age of, 18 until my early 30s. And I did a lot of really cool stuff and I did really well. I definitely put those degrees to good use and was able to, climb the corporate ladder, as they say. And I got to that point that, I guess society deems as being like the goal of, the expensive suits in the corner office in the tall tower and, having a bunch of teams and, the six-figure salary and so on. And, you know, what I found was that I eventually got to a point where, you know, I could have all of that, but doing my own thing. And so all of that stuff in a more formal sense became much less important. And having a fancy title and all of that stuff became way, way less important to me. And, just as a side note, since leaving all of that and going into, my own world of being able to manage my own time and getting my businesses to a point where I can be selective on the different types of projects that I work on. I mean, that's better than it for me. For me, that's better than anything I could have ever done in my previous life. So I say all of that to again just underscore the point that, if you didn't go to, a formal school to be trained in film or TV, broadcasting, whatever creative path you're pursuing, it doesn't mean that you cannot be successful at doing it. I mean, gosh, I know a ton of people who studied multiple different types of media in high school and in college and it positioned them to do incredible things. I mean, if you go to a sporting event today, look around at the sidelines. A huge percentage of the people who have cameras in their hands and are up close and personal with the athletes and getting all these amazing shots that you see on social media, a lot of those people are students. I mean, they're students that are working in, they're studying some degree that's going to help, them get a job in, whatever type of media that they're studying. And I think that's awesome. That's super awesome. I mean, the number of connections that those individuals are making that I did not make, in my early 20s. I mean, that's a huge, huge benefit. And so them putting in the work and being out there and getting that experience, I mean, that experience and those connections are priceless. I mean, it's really, really, really awesome. So it's kind of funny. A lot of people who ask me this question in particular are usually parents who have kids that are thinking about getting into photography. I get approached by a lot of parents, especially at sporting events, who are like, "Hey, my kid, they've got a camera. They'd love to talk to you about kind of exploring the industry and maybe shadow you or just ask you questions." And of course, I'm always, happy to help out where I can, assuming I have time. But one of the questions I always get is, did you so where did you go to school to do this, or did you go to school to do this? And sometimes they're kind of surprised. They just assume that, I did go to some sort of formal training to do this stuff, which I guess is flattering, but it's always a good conversation to have. Now, there's a lot of philosophies around college in general, and I don't really think this is like the space to get into that. But I mean, is it nice knowing that I have two college degrees? If I needed them for something in the future, sure, I guess. But I've really, really positioned myself in my life to a point where things would have to go really, really, really poorly to have to go back and kind of explore that old life again. So here's the thing: when it comes to photography, there is no better learning than just getting a camera in your hands and going out and shooting. I cannot stress that enough. The amount of time that I spent by myself just walking through the woods early on, just literally nights and weekends, just doing everything I could to take pictures of trees and birds and squirrels and just random stuff to learn about all the different principles of photography and to get to know my camera and my lens and figure out the look that I liked and oh well, if that thing's going to move fast, I need to adjust this and that in order to get exactly that type of thing that I see in my head. I want to see that on my screen. Those are all things that just take time. There really are no, and I'm trying not to sound like too much of an old guy here, but um, there really is no shortcut when it comes to photography. You just have to get out there and learn. And while there's a ton of information that you can learn in a classroom, that can only go so far because when it comes time to when you're on a shoot, especially on a shoot for a client and they're paying you to be there, I mean, you got to be able to figure out stuff. You got to be able to troubleshoot. You have to be able to look at a situation and figure out how exactly you're going to make whatever it is you need to accomplish happen. And, there's only so much of that can be gained through a classroom. Photography is, also about, working with people. And don't even get me started on the number of hours I have spent on YouTube, watching different tutorials on how to take better photos. I mean, it's almost 2025. Literally every piece of information that you could ever need or want about photography is aside from the experience of actually having it in your hand and going out and shooting yourself, it's at your fingertips. It's right there. And even today, I mean, I do this all day, every single day, and I still find time to go on YouTube and watch videos about cameras that I own, cameras that I don't own. I watch a ton of different some of my favorite photographers out there that are out there making content, and I'm seeing how they're doing things, and it's a never ending learning process, and that's one of the coolest things about being a photographer. It's hard to get bored. It's very, very, very difficult to get bored. But truly, I don't think that there are a lot of shortcuts. This is one of those career paths that you have to put in the time. You have to put in the time to learn what you're doing. You have to put in the time to create valuable connections with people. Relationships are massively important in this business. I I can't underscore that enough. So, getting out there and shooting is going to be your best form of education, in my humble opinion. So, yeah, do you have to go to school to be a photographer? I don't think so. But if you did, great. If you didn't, also great. I hope this helps answer that question. Thank you so much for tuning in. I always appreciate it. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. See ya.